hosting something I call Billionaire Bruce, or someone I call Billionaire Bruce. Billionaire Bruce is my alter ego, and that's pretty much what I want to talk about today. So let's see who's hopping on real quick. But Billionaire Bruce, he's the guy. I created him for a reason, because a while ago when I'm trying to just build my businesses, the entertainment business, the speaking business, the online portion, I'm trying to build all this stuff. And for some reason, little things were popping up, like procrastinating. I mean, I wake up and I just wouldn't feel like doing certain stuff. Wasn't as focused as I needed to be. Wasn't as obsessed as I needed to be. And so I was wondering, like, hey, I want to achieve a certain level of results in the business, but it wasn't working out the way I wanted it to be. It was taking too long for this thing to actually happen. And so I thought about self-image. I remember just reading about self-image. You hear about it from time to time. And so I'm thinking self-image. And that's when I decided to create my alter ego, Billionaire Bruce. Billionaire Bruce is on a whole new level. He's a ruthless mofo. And so I want to talk about Billionaire Bruce and the whole process of creating him and how you need to create an alter ego. So if you create an alter ego, what's going to happen is you'll just see yourself doing things that you don't normally do, but you'll be doing the things that are going to get you the end results that you want to get. So if you're trying to grow your business, you're trying to grow your personal brand, whatever it is, you're trying to grow this thing, but you see that you're not as obsessed. You don't have a sense of urgency. You don't know a lot of marketing. Whatever it is, you're procrastinating all the time. You see all this happening. The reason is because you are you. So what has to happen is you have to become someone else. And I remember I heard about this a long time ago, just in a motivational quote, something similar to that. And so throughout all this time, I wondered, like, why am I procrastinating like more than I should? And why is it that I wake up from time to time and I just don't feel like doing stuff? And so the reason why is just because you have a certain self-image. And so when you switch that self-image to something else, that person does other things. And so that's what I started to do. What's up, Kathy? What's up, Teresa? What's up, Mike? What's up, everybody? Happy hump day, hump day. Basically, what a lot of people don't realize is that what's holding them back, it's usually the invisible things. So it's not the tactics and the techniques. The tactics and techniques, they're already out there. Facebook ads, Instagram ads, outreach, cold email, cold calling, which is the outreach. But all that stuff, the tactics and techniques are already out there. So you have to ask yourself, why haven't I gotten the results that I know I could get in my business? It's because you personally aren't the type of person who's actually going to implement it. You're not the type of person who wakes up and just goes and does that thing 24/7. Maybe you personally hate cold calling. You personally hate cold emailing, or you're coming up with excuses in terms of cold emailing. What if they don't like it? I get emails. I don't really read those kinds of emails. And so you're coming up with all sorts of excuses. But when you change the self-image, everything changes. And so this is why pretty much every single result in your life, it's not the tangible things like the tactics and the techniques. It's always the internal factors that really determines what's about to happen to you and what's about to happen to your dreams, your life in general. So this is why you have to create this self-image. So let's talk more about this self-image. I mean, the definition of a self-image, I wrote it down, says the idea one has of one's abilities, appearance, and personality. And so think about that. The ideas that you have over your abilities, your appearance, and your personality, pretty much your entire life. That's pretty much your self-image. And so who you think you are determines what you can do. So who you think you are dictates what you can do. And so when you get that through your head, you start to think, all right, who do I need to become to get what I want? And that's what really started happening inside of my brain. So if you say to yourself, I suck at cold calling, then hey, guess what? You are going to suck at cold calling. Like, you're literally going to be afraid to pick up the phone. You're not going to know what to say. You will suck at cold calling because you say you suck at cold calling. And so on the other hand, if you say, I'm going to be a cold calling machine, or I'm a cold calling machine, I'm going to learn how to do this thing. Like if you see yourself as that actual cold caller, a cold caller would actually say things like that. They would literally say like, nah, I'm a cold calling machine. Even if they're not that great at it, they would still say, nah, I'm a cold calling machine. I'm not afraid of picking up the phone and calling somebody, because that's their self-image. So this is why I keep telling people, whatever you believe to be true becomes true for you. It's not truth. It becomes your truth. So if you say I suck at cold calling, you suck at cold calling. If you say I'm a cold calling machine, you become a cold calling machine. This is where the whole idea of the self-image comes into play, because belief, it dictates action. And that's why you have to truly pay attention to your self-belief. Very few people self-image, very few people understand who they are. So who they are is really a collection of other people's opinions. And so once you understand what your self-image is and you understand you can change it, then you can change everything that happens around you. So initially I started out as an entertainer, right? So I'm just doing entertainment, just started out just magic, practicing magic. And I changed my self-image ultimately from entertainer to entrepreneur. And this happened when I started just learning business. And so in the beginning, I'm just an entertainer. All I'm doing is performing. I don't understand the business side, don't understand cold calling, cold email, don't understand any of that stuff. I'm just performing. I'm just a type to where, you know how they say, just do what you're passionate about and everything's going to come to you. I was there before, there mentally. I was like, you know what? I'm passionate about performing. Let me just do this thing. And it wasn't until I switched from entertainer to entrepreneur, entertainer to businessman, that everything started changing. Because as an entertainer, I didn't really think about much. I mean, I was just practicing my craft. As an entrepreneur, the entertainment was my product. That was my service. So now I'm thinking very differently. So now I'm thinking, all right, this guy, Benji Bruce, is the entertainer. All right. And then at the time, by the way, I didn't have a name for my new self-image. It wasn't Billionaire Bruce at the time, but this is what I actually did. I actually saw Benji Bruce. I saw him as something separate from me. Benji Bruce was the thing that I was selling. This was the entertainment that I was selling. And it allowed me to look at things from a world view, like just step back and look at it from that view. And so I started doing that. I was no longer identified as an entertainer, or at the time he wasn't Billionaire Bruce, but at the time, this entrepreneur, this businessman, he was focused on, how do I sell this thing, this product called magic, this product called mentalism? How do I sell that thing? And so eventually I went from there and I became a speaker. And so that's the whole concept of when I changed from a mentalist to a speaker, because the businessman, he was thinking in terms of, okay, if I change the name from mentalist to keynote speaker, I can get paid more. And so that's the businessman. That's what the businessman did. And so that's when I really started focusing on this new self-image in general. This is when I started focusing on just getting in demand. Like how would an in-demand presenter speak, or an in-demand speaker speak? And so I was doing this in the cold email and the cold calling that I was doing. I was trying to sound in demand whenever I could. So whenever I got an email response, I would always say to myself, WWTRD. And some of you guys know what that means. I would think, what would Tony Robbins do? Because Tony Robbins, he's like insanely in demand. So what would Tony Robbins do? So I would just think, how would an in-demand speaker talk? That's when eventually I started building the online brand, right? And so in the beginning, just like everything else, I wasn't getting results in the business. And with the online brand, it was very different. So everything that I was doing was just outreach in the beginning. Then it switched to inbound. And so now the inbound stuff, I got to learn Facebook ads. I got to learn all this advertising stuff, these squeeze pages, all this stuff. And so Benji Bruce didn't feel like learning it. Benji Bruce would wake up, I'm just making too much money doing this and actually performing, presenting. Why am I going to learn this stuff? So Benji Bruce didn't want to do any of it. And so that's when I really started formulating this Billionaire Bruce inside of my head. I didn't blame, basically, I mean, I wasn't getting results in general. So when I wasn't blaming any products that I bought, I wasn't blaming anything other than me, to be honest. And once that happened, that's when I was able to really switch everything, when I truly didn't blame anything other than me. I understood I wasn't as obsessed as I needed to be to get what I wanted. So getting the six-figure business, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, anyone can pretty much build a six-figure business if you just do the right things often enough. You don't have to be obsessed, none of that. You just do the right things often enough. But I wanted to build something bigger. I didn't just want 100 grand, 200 grand. I wanted as much money as possible. And so I studied mindset and motivation, but at the same time, I felt like most of the personal development information out there, it's too one-sided. So it doesn't actually tell you both sides of the coin. It just tells you think positive, set these affirmations. It just tells you one side of the coin. And I started reading a lot of biographies. And so when I read biographies, you see the truth. You see what really happens inside of someone's life in terms of ups, downs, what was going on in their head, all that sort of stuff. So I started reading more biographies, and I started analyzing how billionaires, especially, how they actually worked and how they thought. and things like that. And so this is what made me kind of stay away from all the motivational self-help books, because it was just showing one side of the coin. And no matter how positive you are, if you're not skilled, you're going to lose. So this is why I keep telling people, like, hey, imagine if you're insanely positive and you go up against Magnus Carlsen in chess. What's going to happen? You can be the most positive, enlightened person in the world, but Magnus Carlsen is considered the best chess player, one of the best chess players of all time. So if you go up against him, there's no amount of positivity that's going to allow you to beat the guy. Like, absolutely none. And so you don't really see this inside of motivational books. They always tell you the exact opposite. They tell you there's this guy, he was insanely positive. He understood he could be a great chess player. And so he learned chess and poof, he won these tournaments. That's what it tells you. It doesn't say, oh, and he was insanely positive and he learned to practice for years and he came up against this guy named Magnus Carlsen and got his ass whooped. Like, it doesn't say that. Like, it very rarely says stuff like that, but that's what you see in biographies. And so I really started studying both sides of the coins. And that's when I really started getting into billionaires in terms of what they can actually do. And so I wanted to know, why was I not operating at the level that I needed to operate at to get what I wanted? Because like I said, if you just want a six-figure business, you can procrastinate, to be honest. If you want a six-figure business, you can procrastinate. You can wake up at times being like, I don't feel like it, just don't do it. As long as you don't have that a lot, like compared to most people, you can still have it and still build a six-figure business, as long as you're doing the right things. But to build 7, 8, 9, 10-figure business, I mean, it's a whole new level. And so that's what I want. And so that's when I started studying billionaires. And I noticed billionaires, they are insanely obsessed. They're insanely focused. They have a sense of urgency. They're really smart as well. You won't meet a dumb billionaire. They're very practical and delusional at the same time. And they're also very secretive. This is why you don't see programs from billionaires teaching people how to get rich and how to make money and how to build a business, because they're insanely secretive. The reason they're insanely secretive is because they've done things that they just don't want people to know about. So billionaires, they tend to be secretive to a point where they take information instead of give it. They don't want you to know what's going on inside of their heads. And so I was thinking about all this stuff: focused, obsessed, a sense of urgency. They're really smart. They're very secretive. And so they're practical and delusional at the same time. I'm thinking about all this stuff and I say, okay, if I want to actually increase revenue in my business, in my life, what do I have to do? Let me just become a billionaire. Billionaires are focused on money. So let me just become a billionaire. And so that's when I created Billionaire Bruce. I simply asked myself, how would a billionaire act? And then I created Billionaire Bruce. Billionaire Bruce, he's the guy, he's the ruthless guy. Billionaire Bruce, he's like, look, man, I ain't got time to answer your text messages. I ain't got time to answer your calls. No, I'm not hanging out with you. Absolutely not. Like, Billionaire Bruce strictly focuses on money. And so this is when Billionaire Bruce, I would think, I wake up, and he would act with a sense of urgency the moment I woke up. So this is why, like, when I wake up, so I'll wake up at 6 a.m. at least every single morning, or at least Monday through Friday. And so I wake up, and by the way, Billionaire Bruce didn't have Saturdays, Sundays off. I still don't have Saturdays, Sundays off, but still, I would wake up, and instead of just being like, all right, what time is it? Instead of doing all that, Billionaire Bruce would just get up, like, you realize, all right, 6 o'clock, bam, just go straight to the other room, do boxing for 30 minutes, bam, go take a cold shower, bam, he would move with a sense of urgency in everything, even just drying with a towel. And so he would do everything with a sense of urgency, because Billionaire Bruce wanted to get things done and he didn't want to do anything that was slowing down. And so Billionaire Bruce, he's urgency, focused, like insanely focused, obsessed, very, very practical, very, very analytical, delusional to an extent as well, in terms of thinking big and thinking in terms of, if it doesn't scare you, then it's not big enough. So that's what I mean by thinking big. So Billionaire Bruce, he had all this, and I would step into him the second I would wake up. So I'd promise myself, all right, I'm going to sleep. Tomorrow when I wake up, Billionaire Bruce is happening. And so that's what would happen. And it forced me to act differently in everything that I did. And so I truly didn't care what people thought of me, because billionaires literally don't. They have the FU money. They just don't care. There's nothing you can do to a billionaire that's really going to affect their lifestyle. Even if let's say even if their entire business is just gone, like up and gone, just the fact that they still have all their billions of dollars, they still have the money. So maybe money's not going to keep coming in, but they still have the money. They literally do not care what people think of them. And so that's why that helped me with that. It just helped me in terms of being very impatient. Everyone who knows me will tell you that I'm very impatient. I think this is just something that naturally happened, to be honest. It wasn't even a result of Billionaire Bruce, but Billionaire Bruce, he's very impatient. It's like he's on a mission. He's like, hey, I don't really have time just to sit down and chit chat. Billionaires don't have time to do that. And so, hey, I don't have time to chit chat, don't have time to talk on phone chit chat, none of that sort of stuff. So he's on a mission to accomplish this vision that he has. And so that's essentially what happened. It forced me to act very differently. So ultimately, if you're going to create your alter ego, you're simply saying like, who do I need to become to get what I want? That's literally what you're doing. Who do I need to be to get what I want? So this is where you simply study people at the top, people who have what you want, and think, all right, what are they really like? Don't just look at the good parts, look at the bad parts. This is like where Carl Jung talks about the shadow. So you can look that up. Maybe I'll do a whole thing on that. But basically, you got to look at both sides of the equation. This is why if you look at top people like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, when they played, it was a killer mentality. Like when they played the game of basketball, if they knocked you down to the ground, they're not going to hold their hand out and help you up. It was a killer mentality that they had. And a lot of people said, oh, they're not nice, whatever. But that is why they were where they were. That is why they were the best. It is why Michael Jordan was considered the best. Why Kobe, he's the only one that's even close to Michael Jordan. Because they had this killer mentality. And so it's not nice when you look at it. It's not nice in terms of, especially Kobe. You hear stories about how Kobe, he cut everybody off in his life when he was like, all right, I'm going to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He just cut everybody off. And so it's not nice, but that is why they are where they are. And so when you study things like that, you have to truly be prepared to do that. If you're not prepared to do that, you won't become them. And so I was prepared to do what a billionaire does. And that's why I said, okay, the pure obsession, all that sort of stuff. And so if you're not prepared to do that, just don't do it. Just say, all right, I'm not going to go to the extent that Kobe and Jordan and all these billionaires go to, but I'll go to the extent of a normal millionaire or something. And so that's what you do. You kind of just create that image inside of your brain. The best way to think about this is you just imagine a character that you're playing in a movie. That's all you literally do. Imagine you've been hired for a movie, the biggest movie of your entire life. It's going to last your entire life, and you have to create this character. And this character, you step into that character, and that character is a person who gets the things done that you want to get done. So what's the end goal you want to accomplish? And then what's the character that's going to actually accomplish that thing? And so that's essentially what you're doing. So if you are introverted, like let's say you're introverted right now, you can simply create a character who's extroverted. What would this extroverted person do? And I'm talking about every single day. Like when he wakes up, what would he do? So if you go in, so I'm in a high rise. So if I immediately go to the elevator, I'm about to go get some coffee downstairs. Someone steps into the elevator. An introverted person wouldn't say anything. An extroverted person would be like, hey, how's it going? How's your day going? And that's what an extroverted person would do. How's your day going? Even if they don't know the person. Hey, yes, my name is Benji. All right, cool. Yeah, man. That's what an extroverted person would do. So you just visualize that. You just do what they do. And you're literally playing this extroverted character throughout the entire day. And the reason why people don't do this is because they simply think in terms of what other people are thinking about them when they do it. But all you're really doing is you're simply creating a character. And in a movie, they yell cut. Cut, and then bam, you go back to normal. But you don't want cut to happen. You have become this extroverted person or the billionaire Bruce or whoever you've become, and there is no cut. Like, there is none. And so that's essentially what happens. You don't just cut after a minute or 2 minutes or an hour or whatever. You just don't cut. You just don't. And so all you're literally doing is it's like, who do you think you are? Because who you are dictates what you do. This is not affirmations, by the way. Affirmations is where you say something inside of your brain. I'm great. I'm going to make money. That's just an affirmation. I'm talking about you literally becoming a different person to a point where people literally say to you, it's like, this isn't you. This isn't really you. That's literally what should happen. This isn't you. And so that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about affirmations. Affirmations, you still are you. You're just saying what you want to say. Whereas if you change your self-image, you are someone else, and that someone else does everything right. So that's the difference between the self-image. With affirmations, it's brief. It's a brief moment in time. With the self-image, it's 24/7. And so you're acting out this character the entire time until that character basically becomes you. Right now, your current self-image is just a collection of other people's thoughts. It's a collection of other people's thoughts, other people's opinions. Because what happens is, especially let's say you're an introvert person or you're shy or whatever. When you do something out of place, when you do something extroverted, what do people say to you? People are like, oh, that's not like you. And then you revert back to you being shy, back to you being introverted. So what you ultimately do is you just don't revert back to that thing. And so right now, your self-image is literally a collection of other people's thoughts, because when you do something, they react in a certain way to you, and you are reacting to that reaction. And this is why I created something, Billionaire Bruce, because also another thing with billionaires create, they don't react. And this is a big thing for me. I didn't want to react to everything that was going on. This is why I just thought, all right, billionaires, it's not personal, it's just business. They leave emotions out of it. When something happens, they don't just say, oh my goodness, they don't like flip out. They leave emotions out of it, and it helps them make better decisions. And so little things like that, they're creating, they're not reacting to the world. So when the stock market goes down, Warren Buffett, he's not like, he doesn't say, oh my goodness, the stock market, oh my goodness. Warren Buffett says, okay, great. Stock market's down. Let's see if we can buy more shares. That's what he does. Like, he leaves emotions out of it. And so that's essentially what you're doing with your self-image. Billionaire Bruce, he's ultimately the self-image that gets things done. Like I said, dude has an insane sense of urgency. He's insanely focused, obsessed, delusional, practical, analytical at the same time. So it's a lot of these things at the same time, and that's what allows me to get done. Like I said, I just wake up, bam, I'm Billionaire Bruce, bam, I just get going, and it's almost like you no longer feel bad for doing certain things. So when you get a text from somebody, you no longer feel bad for ignoring it, because that's what Billionaire Bruce would do. Billionaire Bruce is like, no, I got to get this done. And so you just don't feel bad anymore, because it's the character who's playing all this stuff out. And so you have to ask yourself, what's your new self-image? What's the end goal that you want? And then who's the person that you have to become to get that end goal? That's ultimately what you want to do. So let's see if there were anything here. Yeah, so Maxwell Maltz. Yeah, he's the guy who did psycho-cybernetics. Yeah. So yeah, it's the same thing. What's up, Maggie? Hola. So let's see. Greg said, just set up the CRM lead score. Nice. On the way. Cool. Rich said, I'm pretty introverted until I hit the stage. I work hard to the extent that my stage, me, and networking. Yeah, exactly. So that's what happens a lot. It's one of the reasons why you see someone like Michael Jackson, when he stepped on stage, straight up showman. When he's off the stage, insanely quiet. And so it's just because his persona was very different on stage versus off stage. And so, yeah, that's exactly what happens. See, Teresa said it's almost like you become your own hero. Yeah, that's actually what it is. You literally just say, who do I need to become to get what I want? And then you truly have to become that person, and you stay that person. You stay that person as long as you possibly can. You can say, all right, you know what? Maybe during dinner time, I'll ease off a bit. I'll go back to Benji Bruce or something. But ultimately, when you are working and when you are trying to get what you want, you say, here's a self-image that I need to have. Then bam, you step into it. And before you step into it, you truly need to study people like that. That's why I study billionaires. If I wanted to be the greatest basketball player of all time, I would study guys like Kobe and Jordan. I would study those guys and look at their mentality. I wouldn't look at self-development, like self-help books. Because once again, like I said, they just reveal one side of the coin. They would simply say, like, look at Kobe, he's persistent. Oh, look, Jordan, very persistent guy. What they don't say are things like, oh yeah, Jordan, he had a gambling problem, or Kobe. Yeah, I mean, dude cut off his family and everybody. They don't say things like that in self-help books. And so that's why you truly study the reality of a situation so you can understand everything, and then you step into that character. Because if you're not prepared for it, then you just won't actually be that person, and you just won't get the end result. You'll just be a different version of your old you instead of the new version that actually gets what you want. And so that's why I'm telling you, self-image, it helps a lot. So let's see. Glenn said, Magic brought me out of my shell, created a monster. Yep. Nice. Millionaire Greg. All right, cool. All right, so I guess we are good to go for today. So like I said, that's Billionaire Bruce. Billionaire Bruce, I mean, he does whatever he needs to do to basically make money. Billionaire Bruce, I recommend, if you want, you can create different self-images. So like Billionaire Bruce, strictly money. Like, hey, just money. They can create another self-image who maybe he's all about health. Boxing Bruce or something, right? And so you can create different self-images if you want. My self-image, Billionaire Bruce, all of it's essentially under one, because a billionaire, he's like, hey man, in order for you to keep this money, you got to be healthy. And so still, it's all into one, but it's technically up to you. The new self-image, that's the thing that you truly have to study and become if you want to actually accomplish what it is you want to accomplish. So we are good for today. I will see you guys tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Take care, everybody. I'll see you later.